Jujutsu Kaisen's anime hasn't been out for more than a couple years at this point, and it's already somewhat of a cult classic. After only one season, it got a movie that was released in theaters worldwide, so I think it's fair to say that the series is definitely a hit so far. Season 2 is airing at the moment, and I would have covered it sooner, but I have a confession to make regarding a controversial opinion that I have on the show.
You know Jujutsu Kaisen?
Yeah.
I thought it was mid as fuck.
Okay, alright, everybody relax, everybody calm down. Before you go and hit the dislike button, let me explain myself. I do enjoy the show, but mostly the characters over the actual plot. And in this show, there's one singular character that's head and shoulders above the rest. And no, it is not Gojo. This man has way too many people simping for him already. And he's an op. He doesn't mess with my kind. What do I look like supporting this type of activity? Dr. Umar would be so disappointed in me. And I've been seeing y'all online doing that walk thing from season 2. If that was anyone else, it would not fly. To everyone doing that walk,
You weird, buddy. You're weird.
So who am I talking about? I'm talking about this guy, Nanami. Easily the best character in the whole show based off of his relatability alone. He's kind of the opposite of Gojo in a lot of ways, but the reason I like him isn't to just be a contrarian. It's because Nanami is probably the most human character. In his first appearance, we meet him as a Jujutsu sorcerer who's admittedly not the strongest, but he is pretty good at what he does. Overall though, his energy is very monotone and he doesn't seem to get excited by much. He seems to be tired all the time and overall kinda indifferent to the world around him. Through his backstory, we learned that after initially graduating from Jujutsu Tech, Nanami became a salaryman whose job was basically to take rich people's money and make them richer. And like many people in the workforce today, he hated his job. He felt as if his life was aimless and he would die without making a real difference. We see that these types of thoughts weigh on his mind every day, and it's obviously not helping his youth because supposedly around this time he's in his 20s and he looks like he could be pushing 40. Through his introspective monologues, we hear him grow tired of the concept of money and tired of how necessary it is. Feeling defeated in his office, he tries to convince himself that if only he had enough money, then maybe things could start looking up for him. And I'm not gonna be that guy that says money can't buy happiness because, to be honest, I don't really know how true that saying is. Hey, but if I'm keeping it a stack, I'm trying to get my bread to the point where I can find out for myself, because I'd rather be sad and rich than sad and broke. This being poor thing is not it, it's not the move. Another thing to like about Nanami is his ability to observe. He's a pretty smart guy, and in enduring his own hardships, he's able to notice when others are going through it themselves. I've always thought that pain can be great at uniting people in a weird way because once you've felt pain, it's much easier to sympathize with the pain of others. And despite his nonchalant appearance, Nanami really does care about the well-being of others. When he goes to buy his favorite bread from the bakery, he notices a curse living on this lady's shoulder, which is invisible to all non-sorcerers, so obviously she doesn't know that it's there. He initially decides not to deal with it so he doesn't have to deal with unwanted attention, but after he comes in another day and has a brief chat with her about the backwards nature of their respective work, he deals with it and helps her out. While explaining that backwards nature, Nanami points out how he earns more than her even though he's more replaceable than her, in terms of how much the public would care about the services they each provide. Afterwards, she thanks him for his help, which is kinda when he has his aha moment. He calls Gojo after this moment to talk, implying that this is when he decided to become a sorcerer and leave his old job. When we first met Nanami, he claimed to be a sorcerer because it was more suited to his skill set than his other job, and that he equally hates both jobs. I do believe that he equally dislikes both, but I kind of feel like he's lying about the reason he became a sorcerer. I think that after helping the lady from the bakery, he realized that the gratitude of others makes being a sorcerer worth it. And he partially expresses this while in the midst of a life-threatening battle when he says he has no regrets and that he already has the gratitude of several people. To me, this is an example of real selflessness because although he largely dislikes this field of work, helping people makes it all worthwhile. He hated being a salaryman just as much, but never really made any sort of difference. And when you lay it out like that, it's easy to see why he decided to go back to Jujutsu Tech. Nanamin is my favorite because he's real. He's one of us. He's a truly kind soul and he's hurting like most people are to some degree. But in spite of that, he does what he can to protect others. And in my opinion, that's the mark of a true hero. If I'm being honest, that's not really something I can say for most people in Jujutsu Kaisen. Although they are helping the public, I wouldn't consider most of them to be necessarily heroes. Nanamin's demeanor and approach actually does kind of remind me of another hero in another show. But yeah, Nanamin just needs some sleep, peace, and happiness more than anyone else in this show. I, for one, think he deserves it. Also, last reason he's the best character in the show, just look at his jawline. Like, people say Gojo's handsome. This dude's jawline could literally cut diamonds. Like, look how sharp these lines are.